Hello, this is Tom Triwoody. Today, I'd like to talk to you about EFT. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's a gentle tapping on acupressure points with the fingertips while focusing on an issue. There are no needles involved. The tapping tends to balance your energy and also helps to alleviate negative emotions. The founder of EFT is Gary Craig, who has helped millions of people with it. EFT is based on the theory that negative emotions disrupt the body's energy field. By tapping on specific acupressure points, you restore a balance to the energy field, and as the acronym stands for or signifies, you can experience emotional freedom, mainly a freedom from negative emotions. As you embrace the mind-body concept more and more, you may realize or experience that as you feel better emotionally, you can also feel better physically. I'd like to give you a basic demonstration of EFT, how it works. First, I'd like to show you the points. There are 8 main points that are used. Now, don't freak out if you don't learn them the first time. We'll be doing a lot of repetition, and of course you can always replay the video. The first point that I use is on the top of the head. You just tap on the top of the head here. The second point is on the beginning of the eyebrows, right here. The third point is on the outside of the eye, on this eye bone here. The next point is under the eye, this bony ridge here, directly below the pupil. The next point is under the nose, above the mouth, right in here. Next point is, we call the chin point. It's below the mouth, above the chin, this little indentation. Oh, it's kind of hard to see all this hair I have here. Right in there. The next point we call the collarbone point. There's actually 2 little bony notches on each side of the collarbone. Tap along in there. And the 8th point that is used, is under the arm. We call the armpit point. So the location, for a man, it is level with his nipple. For a woman, it would be level with her bra strap. The arm like that. I like to add 2 other points. One over the liver. Now the liver is on the right side of the body, but the meridian is on both sides. So we tap like in this area here in the rib cage. And the last point that I use is on the wrist, which can be tapped like this. So the tapping is done about 7 to 10 times on each of the points. You'll find when I do the demonstration, I probably do it a little bit longer than that, but just make sure you do it 7 to 10 times. You don't have to count each time, just approximately 7 to 10 times. Okay? Now, since I like to work with breathing, anything that I can do to improve breathing, help people to breathe deeper, fuller, more efficiently, easier, I will attempt to do so. So I'd like to work with breathing. So I want you to take a deep breath right now. Kind of the way I showed you in the first video, intro to breathing. Just take a nice full deep breath. Now I'm going to ask you to take a second deep breath, but before you do, I want you to think of rating this breath on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is a super duper deep breath, as big as you can possibly take, and a 0 would be a completely constricted breath. Okay, so go ahead, take a second deep breath now and come up with a number. Now let's just say that as an example, that your number's a 6. So we'd subtract 6 from 10, leaves a 4. So this is the amount of constricted breathing you'd have. So what we want to do is we're going to do a round of tapping and see if it has improved your breath. Okay, so that this 4 of constricted breathing is closer to 0 and that your original number of 6 is closer to 10. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. So, next thing I want to do is to show you there's basically what we call a setup phrase and reminder phrases. So the setup phrase has the following format. Even though I have this blank, I deeply and completely accept myself. And we're going to insert in the blank constricted breathing. So we're going to say this 3 times as you tap on the side of your non-dominant hand. Now I'm right-handed, so my non-dominant hand is my left hand. This side, this little fleshy area, we call the karate chop point or karate chop area, just right in there. So we're going to do that 3 times, and then we'll be doing 7 to 10 times. We'll be tapping on the other points, the reminder phrase. So follow along with me. You'll get the hang of it. Even though I have this constricted breathing, I deeply and completely accept myself. 2 more times. Even though I have this constricted breathing, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this constricted breathing, I deeply and completely accept myself. And now the reminder phrases. This constricted breathing. 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 Okay, that was a round. So go ahead now and take another deep breath. And for many people, hopefully you, that it improved it some. Now, if it didn't, don't worry about that. We'll get more into that later. But say, as our original example, say you were a 6, say you improved it a little bit to an 8. Okay? So, you subtract 8 from 10, and that gives us a 2. So now you have a constricted breathing of 2. So we're going to do another round, and we're going to modify the setup and the reminder phrases. So follow along with me. Even though I still have some constricted breathing left, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still have some constricted breathing left, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still have some constricted breathing left, I deeply and completely accept myself. Now we're going to say remaining constricted breathing. 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 Okay, that was another round. So go ahead and take another deep breath. And hopefully it improved it some more. And many practitioners will just tap on the so-called negative or the energy disruption, in this case constricted breathing. However, me being into positive thinking, law of attraction, affirmations, all that good stuff, I would like to do a couple positive rounds. Now, an important point, normally I wouldn't do positive rounds until I cleared a lot of the negative stuff first. It's kind of the same type of principle I use in breath work, where if a person has a strong negative emotion, I wouldn't necessarily give them an affirmation right away. I would have them breathe into the emotion, feel the feeling, relax into it, and as they keep doing conscious connected breathing, move the energy, and as an integration takes place, they feel better toward the end of the session. Then I usually give a bunch of affirmations. So this is a good policy to use with EFT as well. However, this is a demonstration. We did do a couple rounds, so-called negative rounds, so I would like to do, I feel it'll still be beneficial to do a few positive rounds. So we'll just do one setup phrase this time. Follow along with me. Even though I've had this constricted breathing, I deeply and completely accept myself. And I'm open to positive suggestions to breathe even better now. I choose to breathe fully and freely. I choose to breathe freely and easily. I choose to take deep breaths fully and freely. I choose to take deep breaths freely and easily. I'm expanding my lung capacity. I have the capacity to take in the fullness of life. I lovingly live life to the fullest. I declare peace and harmony within me and around me. All is well. Life agrees with me. Do one more round of positives. I want to breathe fully, freely, and easily. As I'm wanting to breathe fully, freely, and easily, I feel positive emotions. I believe and expect to breathe fully, freely, and easily. I know I'm breathing fully, freely, and easily. Repeat the sequence again. I want to breathe fully, freely, and easily. As I'm wanting to breathe fully, freely, and easily, I feel positive emotions. I believe and expect to breathe fully, freely, and easily. I know I'm breathing fully, freely, and easily. I know I'm breathing fully, freely, and easily. I know I'm breathing fully, freely, and easily. Okay, take another deep breath. Hopefully it improved it some more. Now say it didn't. Say we did the 4 rounds, the 2 so-called negative, 2 so-called positive rounds, and it didn't improve it at all. Say it stayed the 6 if that was the original number. That's okay. That doesn't mean that EFT doesn't work. What it means is we need to be a little bit more of a detective and figure what is behind the energy disruption, the constricted breathing here. So it could be certain stresses going on in your life now or in the past connected to it. It could be negative thoughts and emotions currently or in the past that are connected to it. It could be specific events, specific negative events from your past, especially in early childhood, that could be affecting your breathing. It could be a bunch of different things. So basically, one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make when they start out with EFT is that they're too general in their thoughts, in their language. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. If you say, even though I have low self-esteem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I'm depressed or I feel depressed, I deeply and completely accept myself. These are very general statements. For the self-esteem, I mean, you can tap on these, do a few rounds, but you may not get much in the way of notice any positive results. However, for self-esteem, if you were to pick 3 specific instances in your past, preferably early in your life, that was a big blow to your self-esteem, then you would notice a pretty big improvement usually. And this is also true with pain. A lot of times people think, they tap on pain, they're going to immediately get rid of their pain. Now, if you say, even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this backache, I deeply and completely accept myself. You might get a little benefit, but again, they're very general statements. Almost always the case with pain is you need to address the emotions that are connected to it. And EFT is all about the clearing of emotions, negative emotions. So you have a much better success rate with pain issues if you tap on emotions. Another issue or area I want to talk about is what are called aspects. Aspects are the various pieces of an emotional issue. The best way for me to explain aspects is to give you an example. Say, for instance, a person has a fear of flying. You could say, as a setup phrase, even though I have this fear of flying, I deeply and completely accept myself. But again, this is a very general statement. The key question to ask in determining aspects, in this case for the flying, is what is it about flying that bothers or upsets you? Well, for some people, it could be right before the takeoff. They freak out. For others, they're fine with the takeoff, but right before the landing, they get, all stressed. Still others, many others, probably when there's turbulence, they can get upset over that. Others, it could be just being in an enclosed area with a lot of people around, kind of a claustrophobic feeling, to get them upset. Or, say, sitting near a window, looking out, seeing how high up they are, kind of a fear of heights. And they might get upset from that. So you see, each one of these things are aspects. In order to get total success or complete resolution of an issue, it's important to address all aspects. Sometimes just changing the wording around can make a difference. I once had a male client who had a fear of flying, and we did the setup phrase, even though I have this fear of flying, I deeply and completely accept myself. Did a few rounds, didn't get any benefit at all. And I had changed the wording around, even though I have this fear of crashing, I deeply and completely accept myself. And he had a huge improvement, alleviation of his fear. So he was fine with the flying part. It was the crashing part he wasn't very fond of. Anyway, I think you get the idea. You want to go from general to specific. You want to tap on emotions. You want to get to specific events in your past, preferably early in your life. And you want to address all aspects. And you'll have a much better success with EFT. One of the beauties of this method is what I call the barometer reading. Remember, I had you, when you took a deep breath, to rate on a scale of 0 to 10 how deep of breath that was. Well, you can use this rating system for any issue that you have. For physical pain, how painful is a certain part of your body on a scale of 0 to 10. Emotional pain, any kind of emotional upsetter issue. So you do this at the beginning, and you do your setup phrase, a couple rounds of tapping. If you notice improvement, great. You know that you're on the right track. If not, then, once again, you need to be the detective, dig deeper, and find out what's behind the issue. A couple more things I'd like to mention is that when I did the first round of positives, I said things like, I choose to breathe fully and freely, I choose to breathe freely and easily, that kind of thing. These were called choice statements. This was developed by an excellent therapist named Dr. Patricia Carrington, what she calls the choices method. Sometimes if you say, I choose to do something, then your consciousness is more open and receptive, less resistant than if you use a direct affirmation. And then I also, in that first round of positives, use some Louise Hay affirmations for the lungs and the respiratory system. So you see, with EFT, you can be very creative in the words you use, what you tap on, what type of an approach. So it's a wonderful system. Like I said, it's helped millions of people, and I often use EFT when I'm working with my breathwork clients. Usually, I do an hour of conscious connected breathing with them. Right before we do the breathing, I spend at least a half an hour talking about their thoughts and emotions. And this is an excellent time where we'll do some tapping. Anyway, there is a lot to EFT. I just gave you a basic demonstration, kind of a tip of the iceberg. If you want to learn more about it, there's a lot of information online about EFT and tapping. However, I strongly suggest or urge that you, at least initially, stick mainly to the teachings of Gary Craig. He was the founder of the method. Most of the benefits, most of the research, and there's been a lot of research done on EFT, is based on his system. there's a next step I highly recommend. There's a video that you can watch. I think if you go to YouTube and you type in 7-minute intro video for EFT tapping, you'll see this blue screen with the letters EFT and Universal Healing Aid, something like that. I highly recommend that you check out that video next. And Gary Craig also has put out a manual EFT, and just called EFT Manual by Gary Craig. And it's also very good. It used to be you could download it for free. I know you have to check it out now. He has some new website called Palace of Possibilities. And another thing I suggest is there's a free tutorial on that Palace of Possibilities website called The Gold Standard. And it's what he calls official EFT. He does something else called optimal EFT, the unseen therapist, and that's a different system than what I'm suggesting now. You know, and starting out with learning EFT, I would check out his gold standard, what I think he calls official EFT. And that's free, as far as I know. So that's pretty much it. I hope you liked this video. If so, please click the like and subscribe buttons. Happy tapping. I hope you experience a true freedom from negative emotions. Thank you.